This episode is brought to you by chain smoking, because in the 50s you looked so cool. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Podcast Assemble, the show where you come for your rambling geeky download. My name's Tommy and I am delighted, as always, to be joined by my friend and co-host from across the pond. It's our resident gang member of the Pod DL. How are you?
What's up? What's up?
Oh, you're a West Side boy.
Oh yeah, dude.
I'm an East Side boy.
I'm South LA.
I'm East Side through and through, baby girl.
Oh, are you? You know who wouldn't
I was
like
all
that?
BIG.
Freaking.
But then saying that, Diddy's probably cancelled by this point.
Dude, I actually love Notorious. He was the best Biggie.
He was the bomb.
But he didn't have enough albums.
I mean,
They killed him too soon.
He died very
They killed him
It's
too
hard
soon.
to be... I say
But
that.
it's pretty crazy how good he was for just those two albums.
Right. Have you seen
It's
those?
actually super sad.
Have you seen those weird conspiracy theories that he stole his entire act? Have you seen those?
He stole it from someone?
Yeah, so there's this other artist. Can't remember names.
Is he
This
alive
just
still?
off the top of my head, who apparently got paid off. And it is the same act. Like, if you listen to this guy, there's like some really like shoddy recordings of him. And he sounds exactly the same as B.I.G.
Well, let's go find him.
I'm
down.
Let's bring him back.
Yeah.
He could be the new... Do you still believe Tupac's alive?
No.
Just ran away?
These guys are dead. Not like... This is
I
like...
love a good conspiracy theory.
This is like... Yeah, this is too much.
Have you seen the Elvis one?
The one that is
The
intriguing
Elvis
to me
one's
is the
good.
Linkin Park one.
Which is that?
That like Chester didn't kill himself. He was actually like...
Oh, yeah.
That one's crazy.
He was going to
like
uncover
expose like
child-
some child pornography thing.
Yeah.
Which
I've heard that one too.
I actually haven't dug into it, but it sounds much more like
realistic
than just like Biggie
artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like gangsters probably kill each other, dude. They do.
In the 90s, they definitely
do that.
did.
They do that even within, you know,
In Australia.
Even biker gangs.
Even biker gangs.
gangs.
If you haven't guessed, by the way, we're doing the Bikeriders, which was one of the movies that's just come out, I think.
Yeah, this is a movie whose name is both apt and extremely lame. The Bikeriders. Surely they could have come up with what did you think?
It's such a shit
It's
name.
like I was literally trying to think. Like I was putting the title into my notes. I was like, what is this movie called? And I had to like look it up. And I was like, the Bikeriders. like
why
what?
is Gamora?
Like there has to be something better, like cooler. Like
I mean, there's like you could just put in ChatGPT.
Who in the writers' room was just like, you know what? It's too late.
Well, actually,
I'm tired.
I've got some good trivia about that coming up for you. You hang fire. We have some good trivia about that. How have you been, mate?
I've been good, man. I've been
still loving fun employment.
Yeah, well, it's kind of coming to a close. I don't have a job yet, but I'm having to like look for a job.
you got to try.
So it's like, you know, I'm basically doing like 6 to 7 hours of work a day doing that.
It's more than I've ever done for looking for jobs.
But
good trailers this week, though.
Yeah, there's like plenty to distract
Keeping
me
yourself
between
distracted.
like the books and that I'm reading and you know, the EU cups that I'm. The EU cup? What do you call it? What do you lads call it? You laddies?
So American.
The EU little
the Euros.
The little tourney.
The Euros.
The little.
Sorry, just because they don't win the World Championship, just playing in America doesn't mean that it's
little soccer club thing you've got going. Like you guys have like weird names like clubs. Like it's like not. It makes it seem not like a big deal.
I mean,
we're just heading to the club. Like it sounds like a gym. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I've been losing money on that like it's my job.
I mean,
my bets are not panning out.
I gave you a great bet last week. That
that one would have won. We got. Yeah.
I mean,
and then I bet on France, which was never smart.
As a human from England, as my birth country, seeing England doing that well is just wild.
You guys are in the finals, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it's counterintuitive to what we normally do. We normally get our hopes up and then
there's still time, Muller.
And then leave. Well, no, but this time we came in with no hopes because everyone hated the manager, and now we're like, oh, we've done pretty well.
You're like, maybe
he's confusing.
Right. What about Mbappe? What happened to him? Was he playing?
Yeah, he played against Spain.
Yeah,
so Spain beat France.
Oh, come on.
Spain are the best team right now.
Yeah, they were. I didn't feel good about betting against them because I watched them play in the like pool play or whatever, early. And they look good.
Keep throwing all these terrible words for these things at me.
Anyway, I need to stop
the ball.
I need to stop. Yeah, they connected. they connected with.
You just make me think of Ted Lasso, and that's one of my all. I might need to watch that again. That's one of my all-time favorite
finished
TV
the last
shows.
season, honestly.
What?
Yeah,
like people.
I refused to want it to end, so I just didn't.
I mean, that's a good enough reason. That's a good enough reason.
Yeah,
I really want you to finish it because I maintain that they've left it perfectly to bring it back in 5 years' time.
Okay,
they have left it.
I'll finish it
on the precipice. It's perfect.
I'll finish. I'm starting to have to do responsible stuff, so I'll need distractions. Sounds like I got another good distraction.
Finish it immediately. Quickly before we actually move on to stuff. You saw the Severance and Gladiators II trailers.
Yeah, one of those had a little bit more going on than the other.
Absolutely.
But I wish it was reversed.
Most interested in?
Oh, for sure, Severance.
Yes.
Yeah. But there wasn't a lot of news. There was a new character.
Did we do a Severance episode? No. I think we just talked about it.
I don't know. We'll have to look back. If we haven't, we should. There's a new character in the trailer. That was the biggest thing, right?
Right at the very end?
Yeah. And she said, you should have never come back. It's well, duh, that was the whole goal. obviously things failed. They weren't escaping to come back.
So for anyone who hasn't watched Severance, go get Apple Plus right now and just binge the first season. Just seriously, it's one of my favorite shows of the last 5 years.
I think it's an all-time favorite show for me. It's in terms of vibe and creeping.
There's a question for you.
Yeah.
Is it a Mount Rushmore one-season TV show?
I think it might be.
It's got to be up there.
I mean, what was my last one? It was True Detective season 1, obviously.
Well, I've got 4. So it's True Detective season 1, Stranger Things season 1, Westworld season 1, and maybe this.
We've done this before, though.
Yellow Jackets. Also, we're talking modern TV shows, by the way. Yellow Jackets.
We've done this before, but it was a few years back or a couple years ago. So
go back and check all our episodes to find when we talked.
Yeah, I honestly think, and you're gonna hate this, but I think Game of Thrones season 6 for me is up there. And we disagree.
Come on.
I think everything else you said, and I think I would probably sub out Stranger Things and put Severance. Yeah.
You put Stranger Things ahead of Severance?
No, I put sub out Stranger Things and put in Severance.
Had me going for a second. Yeah. I can see that. The first season of Stranger Things was incredible. It's still very teeny and very tropey. There's a lot of that going on.
It's a great show. It's just there's not enough depth for it to be in my top.
Okay.
I only got 4.
Okay.
Right? Mount Rushmore's 4.
It's 4 heads, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
I should know that.
Name me a sex tape.
Yeah.
It's I like it.
Gross.
4 heads. Well, I'm a 5 head, so it's not going to be me.
Yeah.
I really, you know what, right? You've actually convinced me. I don't think Stranger Things is going to get into my Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
I've only got 3 now. I'm taking it off.
Okay.
I don't know if Severance, to be honest with you, I don't know if Severance really makes it. It's up there. It's very good.
Severance is just so clean.
I'm just very excited about the new season.
Yeah, it's just so clean. I mean,
and the ending, the cliffhanger.
It's tough.
Oh my God.
There's because there's a bunch of Deadwood has a bunch of great seasons, Sopranos. I'd have to go rewatch to know for sure. But
so super quick for anyone who hasn't seen Severance. Yeah. Give me the 1-sentence overview of
it. It's not easy. You follow a world where there's a big company that in order to work for certain parts of it, you have to get a procedure called severance, which splits your brain between work and life. So when you go down the elevator,
and
you have no recollection.
Never meet.
Yeah, and they never meet, and you'll have no recollection of what happens there. Effectively, basically creating almost 2 people.
I think it's more of a vibe than anything. The vibe
it's
of
the
it
tone.
Is right.
The tone is just on point.
Yeah, they've really nailed that. 100% the tone. And the vibe. I can't even remember the theme tune. Yeah. It's great. You've rewatched it recently.
Yeah,
I've watched it once. We might have to rewatch before the new season comes out. I think that's coming out in January, which should be fun. But did you also see the Gladiator trailer?
Yeah.
Gladiator II.
Am I weird? Look, I'm sure it's going to be an epic view in theaters. We'll go. Whether it's better or worse or makes Gladiator 1 not as good, who knows? But am I wrong in saying that Denzel just seemed a bit ghetto in it? And I was dude,
I didn't notice that.
He kind of feels like he's in Training Day, but he's an emperor. And I'm
like that though. That's one of my favorite characters of his.
No, it's amazing, but does it fit the time period?
I'm not 100% sure who he is in it. I feel like he's the slave owner. I feel like he's the slave owner.
A slave owner would make more sense,
right?
Because I couldn't tell. I was is he an emperor? And maybe this is just me being an idiot. Because
they have 2 young emperor-looking dudes.
Didn't the Romans enslave black people?
I mean, maybe Hollywood's gone woke, my man.
Yeah, but you kind of for something in Rome, you need to be a bit more historically accurate.
I mean, no, you don't. But
you should, I think.
I kind of agree with you on that.
Yeah.
I think he'd probably be a slave owner in this. I would suggest by the way sense. He's G'ing up the boy whose name I've totally
you'll get freedom if you do XYZ.
Pedro Pascal's the bad guy. I find that interesting.
No, we'll see how he
one
plays
of
it.
the bad
Yeah,
guys.
we'll see how he plays it.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like it'll be fun to watch.
I mean,
if anything, for spectacle.
if you think you're old school on this, like this is my POV on this, and don't tell me if I'm just wrong or I'm just a rambling old man. I'm fine with all of those things.
Yeah.
My POV is, why do we need this?
You don't.
It could be amazing. So okay, right. So for me, Gladiator is a perfect movie. You don't. There's nothing in that movie that you can change to make it better. Personal aspect.
I don't
right?
remember it, but I think it's amazing. Yeah,
it's goddamn amazing. Even if it is Russell Crowe, it is goddamn amazing. Now, what can this movie add to improve on anything from this? So if it's already perfect, you're either going down or you're staying exactly the same. Now, don't get me wrong. This could blow us all away. It could be amazing, but just give me it as a different story about something else. Like, why does it need to be the same? Give me a cool Roman story. When was the last film you watched set in Rome?
No, we talked about this, I think, on a recent pod where it's like, well, why don't they just call it something else, have it be in the same world, but it's about Rome? You know, it doesn't have
not
to
even
be
in the same world.
We don't even have to go to the Colosseum again.
Right.
Like, but you know, I think that there is truth to the fact that there was eras of the Colosseum. Like it went through different renditions, and it does look like we're seeing a more like later advanced where they had like naval battles and and animals, which is like a different period, I think, of Rome. So like maybe they'll explore a different theme, which would be cool. Like what is it? What are the themes of like, and this is just the centerpiece motif of this franchise, is that you explore these themes in the setting of the backdrop of a gladiator pit. But like, I don't know, there could be, if they do that, I'd be super stoked. If you're looking at the end of a very corrupt Roman Empire that's like collapsing on itself due to all the wealth of them bringing in all these exotic animals and putting on these crazy shows, and they explore that.
I think that's great. Cool. I think that's great. And I'm totally down for that. My point is, it doesn't need to link to Maximus. There's just no need for that. All that, like that Russell Crowe character, let him be dead. Let's see something completely different.
It doesn't need to, but I could see how they could, and it wouldn't affect anything.
Anything can be good. So let's hold out hope that it will be. But of the two trailers, I think Severance was the one I was most excited for.
Same, for sure. There was way less there, but I was way more excited.
Guys, there will be time codes in the description if you want to jump around. Feel free to. You can stick around. We'll be giving you some really good recommendations in a minute. I've got a cool recommendation I think you're going to like, DL. While you're there, DL, how many stars do you think you'd give this podcast? I know we don't talk about stars at the end of the day. We talk about whether it's better or worse than Aquaman, but you can't do that in your podcast capture of choice. Would you give us 5 stars?
I wish they could. You know.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah,
just better or worse than some nominal stupid thing.
I would give you 5.
Oh, like Gladiator. Thumbs up or thumbs down?
Thumbs up for 5. Thumbs up for 5.
If you could give us 5 stars in your app, that would be fantastic. It would be really great. The time codes in the description will also be shared by a friend of the show and editing genius, Mr. Matthew Bliss of Blissery.fm, who is back. Thank the Lord this week. We appreciate you, Matt, and we will share his details at the end of the show. DL, what have you been up to, buddy?
I finished The Will of the Many. We were talking about it last week. Twatum. I've read it. We can talk more about that in a future episode, maybe.
Ooh,
but
you think you want to do an episode on it?
I think that I've realized that it's like not a lot of content out on it. Sure. And it feels like in 10 years, this will be a much bigger book. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm quite removed from it at this point. It's a while since I've read it. So you're going to have to remind me of a lot of the finer details.
That's fine. I can do that for you.
Thank you.
And I actually been doing a little bit of Star Warsing with the Acolyte against my better judgment.
How far in are we?
I've caught up. So there's an episode that just came out. So I'm on like 6 and I haven't seen 7.
How many episodes is the show?
I think it's going to be 8.
8? Okay.
And it was like the first 2 episodes I was like, this is meh.
Dire.
But then like it does turn around a little bit.
Turn around.
Like one episode is really sick.
Okay.
And there's a couple, like I really do like the villain and I really do like the main protagonist. The twin stuff, I'm just having a harder time
The villain's got a weird anime helmet. If you notice, it's got like almost like it looks like something out of anime.
It looks like a Saw helmet.
It looks wild. It looks like that Silent Hill is what it looks like.
I like him though. As like a villain. Are you not digging him?
I've seen 2 episodes.
Okay. So you haven't even seen him yet.
You've seen, so who I think it is in the second episode.
Yeah,
he's
but
just
you
like
haven't
a drunk dude.
You haven't seen him in his like persona. Like as like an actual, no. Yeah. He plays it well. Anyway, so I'm like pleasantly surprised. It's like better than, it's just, they're all just like slightly above average in Star Wars. None of
just
them are
enough to watch.
None of them are like great. Like Mando was probably the highest at its highest.
First season for sure.
Yeah, like it was at its peak. And then the rest have all just been
I think that's why I've stopped watching them.
I get it.
I've kind of given up.
I get it.
I don't have the attention span or the time to do it.
It's not something I like look forward to beyond just like, I'll put it, like it's not, it's so, I can't say I recommend it, but
yeah, with so much good content out right now, like we're in a bit of a hot streak right now.
Yeah.
We've got House of Dragons out. A few shows. One I'm about to talk about has just dropped. There's been some really good content that's just coming out. I don't have time for it. There's other things out there that I haven't haven't seen the new episode of The Boys.
Totally fair.
I am absolutely not going to be watching this. I was talking to friends of the show Film Addicts podcast this week about The Boys, and there was a bit in the latest episode where it's hard to explain without giving too much away, but one hero who's trying to get a sidekick, you think, big air quotation marks, big Joey from Friends quotation marks, when really he's actually trying to get like a gimp to have his way with. Yeah, right.
Oh,
and
God, they just keep
there's a big conceit. Huey ends up involved in it. It's interesting. And I was talking, as I say, to great friends of the show, Film Addicts podcast, and Addy was saying that he feels like the whole season is a little bit shock for shock value's sake. Now, I kind of agree with that. I feel like we've seen it all in The Boys already, and they're almost trying to push it and push it and push it. But like, how far do you go? Like, just give us a good story at this point. Like, the story's great. Bring Huey back in more, make him more central. The web weaver stuff, if anyone who's seen it, they will understand exactly what the web weaver stuff means. I do feel like a little bit it was boundary pushing without boundary pushing's sake. So there's better stuff out there. I don't have the time for the Acolyte deal. I don't have time.
I get it. And I just throw it on kind of for background noise, to be honest, while I'm doing some other stuff. And sometimes that makes it harder. But
we did do a cool thing this week that I think you're going to like.
What did you do?
My partner, who you know is not a sci-fi fan and gets pretty frustrated I like sci-fi. I'm a big sci-fi guy.
Yeah.
She decided she wanted to watch a new show on Apple TV, which is called Dark Matter.
The Black Box.
Oh, yeah, we talked about this
Box
very
of black.
briefly. Yeah, and so we finished it. We burned through 3 episodes last night against my better judgment. I don't like doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I like to spread it out a little bit, but she just digs her content. She wants to get through it. So it's Stargate with a box.
I haven't seen Stargate, but I think I know.
You
what
get
it
the
is.
concept, right? I think the broader concept of like infinite universes, every choice creates a new universe, everyone's a bit different, all this is really a little bit done at this point, but it gets to the tension of this whole show is that from the trailer,
yes,
this guy gets kidnapped by himself from another universe and switch universes. You got to find out why. There's I guess it's not really that hard to guess why, but that runs through the show, and then he's trying to get back to his original universe. It's kind of I like it. It's fun. It was okay, right? So it was interesting what they did with it. They didn't throw him back into his own universe too quickly, and then when he got there, the twist at the end was actually better than I expected.
Okay,
so it's quite predictable. I'm not going to lie to you, a little tropey. If you've seen anything like that with multiple universes and such, you kind of get where you're going with it, but the ending did hit a new note, which I kind of liked. It was different.
That's all you can really do when you deal with time travel. Is have a new
String
flavor
theory,
and different window dressings around it to make it feel different. Even if you think about books like Red Rising, it's just knights. It's just Jedi things. It's the pageantry around it.
Yeah, Harry Potter and Rome.
Yeah, it's it's the world and artistic details you build around it for sure.
It's good. I would give you a recommendation to go away and check out.
It's definitely on my list. It's on my list, and I like the main actor.
We need to
Joel.
Let me look.
Ellerton.
Joel Edgerton. Is that right?
Edgerton?
I like Joel Edgerton.
What a name though, Edgerton.
I can't tell if he's wearing a wig in this. It's really annoying me. His hair is just. I can't
look the way it always has.
Wigdar is going wild in this because it's like in Doctor Strange.
Maybe
you know how he's got that weird quiff that kind of just sits there the whole time. It's that, but it's his hair. It looks like his hair. So I'm like, did they just give him a really bad haircut for this?
Give him product in it. I don't know.
Too much.
Yeah.
Too much. What else you got, big guy? What else have you been up to?
House of the Dragon. I finally got through episode 3. That was a bad episode. Yeah, I know there's a big one that apparently the last one was really good.
I will let you wait. See.
Let me guess and let me watch. But 3 was tough, man. I fell asleep 3 different times. Yeah,
I liked episode 3.
I got through it, and in the end, I liked it. What I did notice about it, I really do like the actor Aegon, the one that's the emperor.
They're all called the same thing.
Which one? You know what I'm talking about?
The drunk one.
The drunk one. He plays a good drunken king.
Yeah,
he's doing a good job.
He plays a good immature king.
Yeah, he's obviously gonna die, but we'll see. Point being,
if you've seen any memes from this week, you'll have the whole episode spoiled for you.
I know. I'm gonna watch it tonight with the missus.
You absolutely should.
But basically, the net is it's going well. Even though that episode wasn't my favorite, I'm still excited about it. Would recommend. And other than that, we continued our Julia Roberts rom-com.
Where has this come from? This is news.
Can I just say, she was like my first crush, I think, as a kid.
Okay,
you see like the rom-com where you fall in love with the guy, and I'm pretty sure she was my first crush. I don't even remember what movie it was. It's not one that we've seen in our little marathon that we've been doing.
Interesting.
But we have to prep for London. So of course we watch
Notting Hill.
You know it.
Love Actually, I watch it every Christmas.
What a goofy is in that movie.
Wait, can we just take a step back? So, one, you're on a Julia Roberts marathon.
I am.
Good for you guys.
Yeah.
Two, she was your first crush.
Yes.
Tell me more.
I mean, I forget the movie. I was like, there's a movie that I remember as a kid. I saw it and was like, I am in love with Julia Roberts. And so we have to find, like, the goal of this journey is to find which one it is. And I'll remember it and I'll tell you.
Brilliant.
I think it ends with them on a bench or something, which is kind of the way.
Notting Hill.
What kind of way Notting Hill, but it wasn't Notting Hill.
I think you watched Notting Hill when you were younger.
I don't think so.
I think you did.
I don't think so.
Interesting. She wasn't my first crush. You know this.
Yeah.
This was Gillian Anderson. So
yeah.
My dad used to love the X-Files, probably for the same reason I like the X-Files.
My dad did too.
I thought she was. Yeah. It was either her or Kimberly from Power Rangers. Those
are great. My dad took me to the X-Files movie. Did I tell you this?
Me too.
And literally the first scene scared me so much. I was like, Dad, we have to go. Oh, no. I was such a little bitch, and you could tell he was so disappointed. He's like, dude, come on.
That's literally the origin of Batman. All you need to do is get shot outside.
Yeah, I was so scared. I know. I literally could have killed my own father. I should have known. But luckily it worked out. We lived in a nice neighborhood.
I did see a funny thing the other day. That
Gotham is not Pasadena.
I did see a funny thing the other day that was like, they left the cinema and they literally, in Gotham, one of the most crime-ridden cities in the world, walked down a laneway called Crime Alley. Like,
is that what it's called?
You're literally begging to get shot. Like, come on.
Crime Alley. That's not what the alley's called.
Literally, it is.
How
in
fucking
the book.
Dumb is that?
Sorry, you Julia Roberts. What did you watch?
Yeah, that's we watched Notting Hill.
I like Notting Hill.
Yeah, it was a good movie. One. It's a good movie.
It's a good wholesome movie.
It's also got what's his face in it.
Hubert Grant.
It's got obviously big floppy hair. It's got Otto Hightower.
Otto Hightower in it.
Yeah, OG Otto Hightower. I
like him in this. Where he's like, what's he got?
He's just a crap.
He's got the t-shirt that's like, I'm a feminist on the one side, on the back is something like, wanna fuck or something.
Yeah, he has a couple shirts. They're all pretty bad.
So you recommend Notting Hill?
I mean, as far as
it's a throwback.
Yeah, like if you're in the mood for a rom-com, they just don't make them like they did in the 90s.
No.
Like I'm thinking, and definitely not like they do with Julia Roberts. She's the rom-com queen. All of them have like this weird twist. It's like kind of like different. Like she's a movie star in that one. The other one, she's a prosy.
She's got more agency than other stars of the time.
I don't know what it is. I think the characters are more thought out. Like,
well, she's not just like a bumbling, like princess to be saved. She actually has some agency. Like in this one, she's obviously, she's a film star. She's got her own career. She's got her own stuff going on. Even in things like Pretty Woman, like she is a strong woman who's doing her own thing.
It's also like realistic the way like she acts, and she is like terribly cruel at points. But you're like, fucking Hollywood film star would be. They would be because they'd be so like removed. Tweaked. Yeah. So I like that like realistic portrayal of what that in that rom-com.
Interesting. Maybe that's what Biden's doing on stage at the moment. He's pretending he's a Hollywood film star.
You reckon he's just pretending to have dementia, or you think he really has it?
I do not want to speculate, but I would definitely bet on that.
Yeah. So anything else for you?
I got one last one.
I would recommend Notting Hill.
I'm intrigued to know if you would watch. So I think we talked about this a little bit fairly recently off air, but have you seen the Beverly Hills Cop movies?
I've seen a few of them on HBO when I was a kid. Randomly.
Right. So I remember watching the first one when I was very young. Not remembering a lot about it other than Axel Foley, Eddie Murphy is a big, fun character, which he is in real life. He's amazing. And they just released on Netflix this new one called, it's a rebootuation. So it's all of the same character, all the characters are back. Yeah. It's Axel Foley, it's again Eddie Murphy. He has a daughter in this one the story is very simply, an undercover cop is killed, someone is framed for it, and it's about them finding out who was framing. And the bad guy is the most obvious bad guy in the world, more so than the Bad Boys film that we talked about a couple of weeks ago.
Obvious.
If you think that was obvious, this is a level above. And I think it's meant to be like that. I think it's like meant to be a throwback to the 80s, because a lot of this film appears to have some pretty good practical effects. There's a lot of he steals, I don't know, like a Zamboni. That's a bad example. He steals like a snowplow, and he's just plowing through cars, and it all looks like it's real. They've done practical effects for this. It's just in the mold of an 80s movie. It's a great throwback. It updates some tropes that needed updating at the same time, while sort of, they kept the character, which is great. Like, he's still a big kid in an adult's body who's just like, everything's a joke, but at the same time, he's definitely a little bit jaded by life as well. So, like, it gets the reboot. This is possibly the best reboot situation I've seen.
Wow. Yeah. That's high praise.
Right.
For Eddie Murphy.
Maverick's obviously up there.
Yeah. I was going to say Maverick. That's a great one.
But I think that's more of a cinema film. Like, watching it at home, it didn't have the same vibe.
Your Dolby surround sound set going, man.
Yeah, we got it. All right. But I reckon this, just watching it, I wasn't, it was one of those where it's Netflix, and I started off, I wasn't really that invested. I was a bit like, I'd heard a podcast about it, and they were saying it was really good. And, even if, haven't seen all the films, it doesn't matter, you can jump. And I was watching it, I was like, yeah, this is really good. And I got more invested as it went on. So by the end, I started off a bit like laissez-faire about it. By the end of it, I was like, hell yeah, Axel Foley. But it had some of those like great 80s tropes, the bad guys are shooting at you and like they're hitting the ground next to you. You know what I mean? It's the Stormtroopers thing, but like funnier. I'm pretty sure they were on their own supply. So it was good though. Like, I liked it. It was a lot of fun. So if you like Eddie Murphy,
it's a Netflix movie, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on my
straight
list.
to Netflix. You should give it a go. List. It's one of those that I think you'll like me, become more invested as you go through. You'll see the character, you'll be like, yeah, I get this. This is the same. But then by the end, you'll be like, they've updated this nicely.
I am. So you do recommend? I'm in. I will check it out.
You should. Yeah. Guys, if there's anything which we haven't talked about that you recommend, hit us up at podcastassemble on Instagram or thepodcastassemble@gmail.com. You can also find us at our website, www.podcastassemble.com. Send us memes, send us news, send us reviews. We love to call you out. DL.
Yes.
Do you want to preface our main topic?
It's the main topic theme.
Our main topic this week is the Bikeriders, as we've talked about. This one, it's in theaters now, right? Director is Jeff Nichols. You'd know him from, well, if you'd ever been to Little Rock, Arkansas, because there's probably not that many directors from there. But he has also done a movie you might have heard of called Mud. If you decided to watch that boring movie that everyone said was good with Matthew McConaughey, or perhaps loving the most boring movie you might have had to watch at Thanksgiving dinner when your auntie made a terrible selection for the annual Thanksgiving movie night. Otherwise, you'd probably want to see this movie because it's much better than those two.
Well, interestingly, this director, Jeff Nichols, left A Quiet Place day one, which we talked about.
He left it. He was like,
he was on to do that movie. So he left it to do this, which I find really quite fascinating. His movie back catalog, if you look at it, it's quite indie. Like, it's a little like things like Mud, things that are a bit different. And I quite like that. And I like that he's tried something a bit different here. But why are we talking about this movie, DL? Because it's in cinemas.
Yes, it's mostly because we want to go to the movie.
The movie.
No, also it's got fucking Austin Butler's handsome ass and, well, it's literally his handsome. Doesn't actually have his ass. Tom Hardy, it's good. It's gangsters, or you think so from the trailer.
Was this in your most anticipated for of the year?
I think it might be.
I think it might have been as well.
It's definitely a movie, though, that I've been saying, like, this looks fun for a while.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, the movie itself, it has the likes of Jodie Comer, who you will know from The Last Duel and Free Guy. Got Austin Butler, as you mentioned, as Benny, Tom Hardy as Johnny. It's got our favorite and patron of the show, Michael Shannon, who is no other than I will find him.
He will
He's back, baby.
He will ride.
It's got Michael Feist, who is from Challengers, which I've not actually seen yet. It's got Boyd Holbrook, who is from Logan Narcos. Got a bunch of people, man. Toby Wallace, who's the kid who's great in this. Norman Reedus is in this. So it's like a stacked cast.
Yeah, no, you could tell that like everyone they saw the top two build guys and were like, we're down for character parts.
Let's do this.
Norman Reed was like,
Norman Reedus, yeah.
Is it Reedus? Reed. He completely transformed his
I didn't know it was him.
His dentures.
Yes.
Or whatever you want to call those.
I mean, he always looks a bit straggly and a bit out there, but like, so what is this movie, Dale? What happens in this?
Oh, well, this movie, we really just, we follow a group of motorcycle enthusiasts and a few of their partners. We get a couple looks into some of the wives briefly, as this group of misfits creates a bike club and kind of watches it progress from a friendly extracurricular shared hobby to a more sinister grouping and sinister, I guess, biker gang before their eyes. We see this journey while cutting back and forth through like interviews about this time from what seems to be a later date. with one of the wives.
And it's based on a book of the same name.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like this contemplative reflection of life in the 50s and 60s and the lack of, anything to do.
In the Midwest.
In the Midwest, what do you do with your time? Like, there's no internet. You don't have a cell phone. You're just sort of sitting there, like
talking about bikes.
Right? Yeah,
Drinking
I go
beer.
for a bike ride, baby.
Yeah,
and I guess what really worked for me in this was there's like a simmering tension throughout the whole movie, which ramps up really beautifully throughout the whole thing. It keeps it really engaging without necessarily being overwhelming or over action packed. I think he's got a real interesting tone.
Yeah,
and stuck to it, and he's really nailed it.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have a dumb summary?
I do have a dumb summary. My dumb summary this week, stupid plot summaries for anyone who doesn't know, is because we don't know how to do movies so good in summary form. So we decided to reduce them down to their dumbest parts. So mine, DL, is very simply, Tom Hardy has a midlife crisis while in a battle of indistinguishable accents with Austin Butler. He loves an indistinguishable accent. I never know what the fuck he's saying anymore.
He just like loves an indistinguishable voice as well. His voices are always a bit weird and different.
I have no idea what's happening.
He does a New York accent well. You hear it a couple times.
Okay.
I just don't think I don't know if there was consistency to why he was doing it sometimes and not others. I'd have to look and research it. But I enjoyed it. Austin Butler got a lot more good looking since the last time we saw him wielding a knife. Tom Hardy's gotten a bit older since the last time we saw him on a bike, but together they prove that not every gangster movie plays out like a De Niro movie.
I like that.
It's true.
I think between us, we've really nailed
it's a different vibe.
It's a different vibe. So the Bikeriders, as I mentioned, is a book from 1967 by Danny Leon, and it was sort of intended as a working title. It's funny you're making fun of the title of this when we started. It was supposed to be that was almost the code name for the movie. However,
makes sense,
they couldn't think, quotation marks, couldn't think of anything better. So they just stuck with it. I'm like, come on, guys.
The writer or the actual writer?
The Bikeriders. So the name of the movie.
But who was the book called? The Bikeriders?
Yes, correct.
Oh, God.
Well, I mean, it was in 67. Of course, that's what it's called. But this movie,
yeah,
come on, give me a bit of creativity, guys. So you pay people for this.
Agreed.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting themes throughout this film. It's a real fascinating look at a culture that I don't really know anything about, especially from that era.
Yeah, I didn't there hasn't been a lot of biker gang movies or content. There's been a show or two. Sons of Anarchy was pretty big. I never watched it. But point being, I was pretty stoked to see a story of this ilk in this setting in the Midwest. I was like, this could be pretty cool. And it was. And I'll say this about it. I can't tell. There wasn't really a breaking. Most gangster movies have that trope of where they go so far they can't come back kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Whether it's Godfather or a De Niro movie or a Scorsese one. I don't know if there was a Breaking Bad moment in this film. And I think at first that kind of annoyed me. But upon thinking about it, I think it's consistent with theme and with the message and with what they were trying to do.
I agree.
But when I was watching it, I was a bit uncomfortable with it. I was like, when are they going to break bad?
Right.
And I just don't, maybe it's not that kind of movie. Maybe, that's the point.
I don't think I kind of mentioned simmering tension.
Yeah.
That was something
there is tension for sure.
The whole way through the movie, it was there and it's palpable. And it was because you had this roustabout set of characters who were gradually, it was almost like that thing of a group of guys get together and they just keep pushing each other and keep pushing each other that one step further and that one step further.
Yes.
And you do it because, you want to be part of the group. You want to be one of the boys. And it just rolls on and rolls on and rolls on. But the tension in that, the things they do and how it's executed, I thought was really good. And I don't think it needed that Breaking Bad moment. I feel like they put a nice twist on that.
No, they did. It was it was a little bit of an inversion.
Yeah, agreed.
Of the gangster movie trope, which when I thought about it in hindsight with the culminated movie, having seen it, it works.
I think it works really well.
Yeah, it works.
So interestingly, I was thinking about the cinematography of this while I was watching it. And I feel like at the beginning, it had this interestingly optimistic vibe to it. So at the very beginning, I was kind of almost feeling like it had a Wes Anderson vibe to it. It had very, very much symmetrical shots, very simple at times, not much happening in them. And you had big wide pans. And it had this optimism and introspective coloredness to it. And I was like, this is beautiful. But by but as it went through, it got grittier and grittier and almost had like a dark A24 tone to it by the end of it. Maybe not quite as neon, but it certainly had like a real kick by the end.
Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't Wes Anderson like with all the weird colors?
Yes.
Yeah, it didn't have that.
I don't mean necessarily the colors.
Yeah,
I'm
it didn't
saying
have
the way
that.
it was framed, and I don't know how to explain it. But Wes Anderson films have like I use the word optimism. That's maybe not the right word for it, but they have like a joy to them that's difficult to capture. In the beginning of this, when they were capturing the joy of a group of people together and doing something they all love, and they're all biking together and they go out, it had a joy to it that I could only capture in that. What my brain thought of the Wes Anderson film I was watching it, interestingly. And the way it was sort of shot was interestingly not dissimilar. But it got dark as it went through.
Dude, they got to give Austin Butler more, man.
Yeah.
He didn't have much to do other than like be good looking. I would be offended if I was him. He was objectified.
He was Tom Hardy in Mad Max.
He
That's
was
exactly
objectified,
what he was.
dude. He was
the 50s, man. Of course he was objectified.
He was objectified, dude.
What did you think of the love story that runs through this? So the kind of premise of this is that Jodie Comer, as Kathy, she meets Benny, who's Austin Butler's beautiful blonde self.
Yes.
And she immediately falls for him. And it's kind of her trying to turn a bad boy good.
Yes, but I'm not really sure that he immediately fell for her. Like they make it like he
I think he wanted to hit.
That's the part where that's the part where I'm like, I didn't see what endeared her to him. That's the only part of that it felt one-sided, that relationship.
And I can imagine back in those days in the 50s and 60s, a bad boy was significantly more appealing because it was sort of like, milk and steak type times. You know what I mean? You were either clean cut or you're a bad boy, and if you're a clean cut,
you could make a living both being either.
Of course,
yeah,
absolutely. And I feel like that wanting to turn a bad boy good thing, that's not new. I like that trope. I think it's interesting.
I like the trope too. I just usually these things like there's a moment where she challenges him, or there's like the guy is endeared by that,
right?
And I don't think we really. I guess we do. She's pretty sassy, to be fair.
I kind of like that, though. I kind of like, and one thing that I think as well that actually at the time I was thinking it was taking me out of it. There wasn't great chemistry between them.
No,
but I think
that's the part I didn't believe.
No, but that's why I think it's believable, because I think she was really trying to force it, and he was never in the relationship. So I think
he was just kind of there, which is like his character,
right? They married after 5 months, and I don't think he was. All he wanted to do was ride back. So the great thing about the Austin Butler character, the whole way through this film, and what you're alluding to there is that he is just this wild card. He doesn't say a lot. He doesn't do a lot. He's quick to anger, but he's not necessarily like angry all the time.
And he's not really passionate about much.
He doesn't have any other than riding his bike and being part of this gang. And I think that's what defined their relationship. She wanted him to change for her, and he never would. And I really like that about that. I thought it was a really interesting way of portraying those characters. I think one of the things I really liked about this film was the side characters. We talked about a few of them. Norman Reedus, who was great as Funny Sonny, Michael Shannon as Zipco. I just feel like they all had such big personalities.
Yeah.
And I think there are tapes of the recordings that the book writer did for his book, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Name is escaping me. Danny Leon did for his book. They must have listened to a lot of them, because that, like, some of the dialogues, the way they were quippy together, even the pictures at the end where you saw them, they kind of looked similar.
Yeah.
I thought the side characters were almost better than the main characters.
Well, it was kind of like have you seen the movie The Outsiders?
I have not.
It's a very famous American book.
Okay.
And it's similar, like, setting. Maybe is this set in the 50s or the 20s?
Yeah, 50s, I think.
I think the Outsiders might be in the 20s. I'm not even sure. But
sorry, I think the interviews are set in so interesting. I think the interviews are set in like the 50s through the 60s. So perhaps it is set slightly earlier, 30s.
So the Outsiders, they make a movie of it. It's a book, and this movie had, I think, Patrick Swayze, Tom Cruise. Let's see.
What a dreamboat.
Dude, it's crazy. They're all so young. You should watch it.
I think it's the one where Tom Cruise, super young, was in the war. Yeah, I think I've heard of this.
Yeah, it's a famous. Give me 2 seconds. It's got Matt Dillon. It's got Patrick Swayze. Got Rob Lowe. It's got Tom Cruise. All super, super young.
Wow.
Yeah.
Matt Dillon.
Yeah, and they're
a throwback.
It's basically like this little like gang of dudes, and the side characters in that remind me of like the side, like they're all they all have cool moments.
Yeah.
And they don't really do a ton for the plot, but they all have like just really good, cool moments that build the subculture and build the general vibe of why
Almost
these
like
people
Alien.
are together.
Almost like Alien.
Yeah.
You know how like the side characters are almost as good as the main characters.
Yes.
Love that. Love that analogy. That's such an
Yes.
interesting perspective. Right. And I mean, they were all really compelling as well. At any point, any one of them could have gone off and done their own thing, but they're so drawn to this group. And one person I really wanted to call out and get your perspective on was the kid, who's played by Toby Wallace, who, so effectively what happens is the gang is gaining notoriety as they're going along. And this young kid who's angry at the world, he just wants acceptance. He wants to be part of something, sort of like a real nice mirror to society today. He goes to try and join the group, and he gets initially rejected by Tom Hardy. Bad timing on his part, to be quite not great. He's just been to a funeral.
I mean, it's not the worst timing. It's just not the best, and he doesn't help himself.
No,
that was one of the cooler scenes in the movie. I
think Toby Wallace plays this incredibly well. He's got like a deep-seated anger to him that's like it bores into your brain when you look at him, and he's just perfect for that role. He looks like a skinny, angry kid.
A punk. Dude.
Yeah, he looked. I really enjoyed him. I thought he was really fantastic.
Have you seen him in other things?
I haven't. I haven't seen a lot of. I looked at his IMDb before, and I haven't seen a lot
apparently
of things
he was in
in either.
Neighbors.
Really? Okay, interesting. Yeah. I think that sort of mirror to society today. That you see this a lot. So I go to the gym in the morning. I'm fit. I'm healthy, and there's a lot of news articles at the moment about like youth crime and youth violence and all these things. And I'm thinking to myself, the society has been suppressed so much that, of course, there are going to be outbreaks of this because there's nothing for these kids to do. And I imagine it harkens back to this time in the US.
Yeah.
What are they going to do?
Yeah. I mean, I guess like it was also a more freeing time. Like,
maybe.
So it's like you had like, you could go to the neighborhood, like you could hang out in the neighborhood and not worry. Okay. Like it's just such a.
He also had a shitty family.
Yeah. I think it's more an investigation of like that and like, how that can result in, somebody making bad decisions that might necessarily not have otherwise. Anyway.
Interesting.
Austin Butler's character just needed about 20 more lines.
But he did a lot with a little.
Oh, look. He was like, basically, his character name in this was sex appeal. They were like, let me embody your character.
And it worked.
You will be sex appeal. And you won't say much, but every scene, you will be sex appeal.
Well, I had my Austin Butler dildo in at the time, so I was my butt plug. So I was in for this film. I was like, all right.
I feel like he's like, I don't want to say it because it's a bit rude, but I think he might be, and I know he's good. I know he is good because like he's had a couple roles where you're like, okay, but he might be overrated.
Oh, I completely agree with that.
Like
100%.
All this stuff with Dune, like he had like 3 scenes,
and he
was just in boatloads of makeup and like was a bit weird.
He was a sperm.
Yeah, he was part of the fallopian swim team, as we say. And it was cool, but it wasn't a lot. It wasn't like this was like, he's really handsome and he played handsome really well, but like there wasn't all that much to it.
I agree. I tell you what it is. I don't think he leaves a big impact on the films that he's not like Elvis is different because
I haven't seen Elvis.
Elvis Presley. So like, of course, he's going to be a huge
was it good
character? I enjoyed Elvis actually.
Was he good?
Tom Hanks's character is he's good. Yeah. But I think everything else he's in, I haven't felt like there's a big impact from him. Dune, like you say, doesn't like he's an antagonist, but he's not like a standout. People saying he was as good as Heath Ledger.
It's just not enough.
In this, he is like you say. He might as well be called, I don't know, Hot Dildo. Yeah, it could be his name.
Like, he like, and don't get me wrong, it's nothing against his performance.
No,
it's the part that was there.
Absolutely.
It's just, I'm just like, I need to see you do something that makes you dig your teeth in a little more.
Absolutely.
And there were this is not What's Eating Gilbert Grape, dude. This is not. What's the next one Leo did that was really big? Titanic.
Yeah. There were a lot of times they could have done that with his character as well. So there is a scene in this where he refuses to take his jacket off. It does that trope that annoys me, where it starts with a scene from later on in the movie and works back to it.
Yeah, for no real reason.
And the guy attempts to effectively chop his foot off almost
with a shovel.
With a shovel, which is pretty brutal. Actually, it's quite an aggressive film. But there was a lot that could have been done with that point because he may have not been able to walk again. He definitely was not supposed to ride at any point in that. And you could have like seen the emotions in him, and like I get it. He's not I'm not an particularly emotional human, but he is definitely not either. But this is the thing that he revolves his life around, that one nucleus for him, and it's been taken away from him. Like, give me more there. That's the chance for him to give you more of that.
Yeah,
and I think they failed him.
Yeah, I think, and maybe a part of his character is he's just supposed to be this cool guy,
maybe
that doesn't give a fuck, and that's it. But my point is, before we give him like the next Timothée Chalamet award of like up and coming act, I would like to see him.
That's going to go on our end of year list, by the way. Who is the Timothée Chalamet award for upcoming actors?
Yeah, like he needs to like do a role with it, like, and it's unfair because he's done Elvis, but to be honest, like biopics aren't it for me.
That's
You're just kind of mimicking. Like,
that's fair enough.
Yeah, so we'll see. But anyway, he was good. I liked him.
What do you think of Tom Hardy?
Tom Hardy is just so fucking good. He's just so good in everything.
I didn't love him in this.
I did.
I thought he was less impactful than old mate.
He
Austin
just seemed
Butler.
like a weird New York dude, like weird
Was he supposed to be
midlife
New York?
crisis New York guy.
I love that.
He definitely had
him.
like a New Jersey accent.
My favorite thing about him in this is he has so the whole plot revolves around this bike gang, what they're doing and what they're getting up to, and the things that happen to them, the ones that maybe don't survive the whole film, and them, fights and how they live their lives as bikers. But Tom Hardy is just a trucker with a family at home. I find that wild. He just finishes being a biker, being like a vagrant, and just fucks off back to his family.
Yeah,
that's so weird.
Yeah, I mean that's his point. Like, it is a midlife crisis. That's what it is.
Absolutely. It 100% is, because he saw it on TV.
It's meant to be. Yeah. It's like that's purposeful. I just liked his voice.
Okay.
He had a weird voice going like, hey,
I couldn't really understand it.
What do you think?
It's so Tom Hardy.
Johnny, like, Benny.
And then Austin Butler was just like, oh no.
Yeah, and Austin Butler just grunts.
Cool. Yeah. No. You might as well be doing the Batman voice.
No, he just kind of grunts. I really like Tom Hardy. There's not anything he's really ever done that I haven't liked. So I'm kind of a fanboy.
I am too, but I don't think this was impactful for me. I feel like there's more that both those characters, in fairness, but I feel like there's more that could have been done for both.
Like in the writing?
Yeah. Johnny was definitely more fleshed out, so Tom Hardy's character he had a better arc in this.
Yeah.
I mean,
he
didn't have an arc, but
he had like a story. Like he was committing himself to something that got out of his control, and then like he putting all this in, it still wasn't fulfilling because it turned into something that, like,
I wonder if in many ways he's the main character of this. So like, sure, you revolve around Jodie Comer, who I really don't like, by the way.
I think he is.
You revolve around Jodie Comer and Austin Butler's characters, who are kind of pushing the plot forward in terms of their romance. But the real main character, as you say, is possibly Tom Hardy.
It's like the club, and Tom Hardy is the club.
He's the owner of the club.
Yeah, and he's the club. So, and I would say it's almost like him and Jodie Comer. Those are the main, and the story is really a battle between both of them for the attention of Benny, who doesn't want anything to do with it. Like, that is the story. And it's like the club is,
he doesn't want anything to do with them. It's great. It's really great.
That's the main rub,
I don't know what it is about Jodie Comer, but she just annoys the shit out of me.
I mean, she's meant to kind of be annoying in this. Like, she's meant to be that Midwestern annoying.
She was annoying in Fall Guy.
I don't remember her in Fall Guy.
Fall Guy, Free Guy. Sorry, Free Guy. She was annoying in Free Guy. Last Duel, she was kind of there. I don't know. She's not for me. I think the thing that kept the pacing, though, wasn't Jodie Comer. It was that tension I mentioned before. Like, the very slow, and I think that's kind of the point of it. It's not about, I mean, there are action scenes, we'll talk about them, but it's more about that slow passing of time and building of gradual tension, things bubbling up, characters not getting along. Yeah. That, as you mentioned, the fight for Austin Butler's attention, which he doesn't care about either of the parties involved. I think that's what kept me intrigued, and more so as the movie went on. Yeah,
now the biker gang getting away with more and more stuff, to the point where you're starting to be like, okay, this is getting a bit uncomfortable. And then as soon as you feel that, like, as soon as you feel like, oh, the people that I've been following are starting to make decisions I wouldn't make.
Yeah,
is like instantly when they start to lose control of the.
I thought that was done really well,
and it was like really done well, because it's like all it takes is you to do compromise your philosophy and moral code a few times before it's too far gone. Right, like that was like a kind of a theme.
A great motif. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, absolutely. I think you could have easily, though. Be honest with me now. You could have easily followed the passing of time if you just put like if you just made a pile of the cigarettes Tom Hardy smoked next to him and just watched it grow.
Jesus, all of them. Butler too.
Oh my God, he was just
had,
like chain smoking.
It's been the hundreds. The drinking game. I was thinking about ordering a whiskey in the theater, but it was like, fucking hell.
Kind of, they were drinking.
It was because of all the drinking and smoking.
They were drinking this. I was
whiskey.
Like, kind of fancy a beer right now.
Yeah.
I think the action though was kind of small scale, and I like. I mean, it sort of reflected the time, and it reflected the setting.
Little fights,
little scuffles. You know, the biker gangs getting with biker gangs. Mostly knives. You know, the odd other thing here and there.
Yeah.
More like quiet violence. I felt like one of my favorite scenes was one we'll talk about in spoilers with Cockroach, and there is a pivotal scene with him which really shows, you know, Tom Hardy's colors at least in this.
Yeah.
And I feel like the quiet violence was more interesting to me than them going for like a big sort of, you know, fight scene, which they didn't do. And I kind of like that.
Yeah. I like it too. The one thing I will say about it, the one critique is like that scene that you're talking about with, I think with Cockroach.
Yeah.
Kind of came out of nowhere for me. Like they'd never done anything like that prior. The craziest thing they'd done is burn down this bar. And it was like all of a sudden that they're like, oh, if you leave, you die. Like, when did that become the stakes? They never really established that.
Well, I
kind of felt sudden.
And I feel like this is part of the motif you're talking about.
Yeah.
So the losing control. So I think this biker gang, and we're probably getting too close to spoilers here, but I'll try and not spoil. The biker gang has a rule about if you want to leave, you die.
I didn't know that though.
No, I didn't know that either, but I think it's sort of implied by being a biker gang, right? I think that's the point. And until that point, it was kind of free going. They were really just mates hanging out in a bar. Like, yeah, there was some gangness to it. Tom Hardy would have to fight for his role sometimes, but it wasn't really gang rules.
No.
And there was that tipping point you mentioned where it slightly turns, and then they have to start enforcing them because otherwise someone will.
It's the only way to keep
And I think that's sort of one of the key tones.
Keep the young guys in control,
film, which is a great segue into tones and themes.
Yes, which I would say is change and the conflict around it.
Absolutely.
Like one of the big ones. And individualism versus like freedom. And
I got outcasts and finding your people, you know, like having a group who accept you.
But yeah, there was a couple. I mean, these guys are hard to accept. Let's be honest. Have you you see some of those barbecues? They're all just like spitting beer all over themselves. I'm like, what is wrong with you? You guys are kind of acting crazy.
I feel like they were just in a time period where that's all they could do.
It would have been smelly. It would have been smelly people.
Definitely Norman Reedus was a smelly
that guy would
have
stank.
What are your 3 best and 3 worst?
3 best. They did a good job of nailing the Midwest vibe, I would say.
That's a good point.
You knew. I felt like I knew where I was. Had a real outsiders vibe, like I said, and that's because of all the like good character actors around the main characters.
Absolutely agreed.
And I like how it ended. It was a refreshing change for this genre, although I didn't really get the character choice for Benny, to be honest.
We'll talk about it in spoilers, I think. So
I think
mine are quite simply all the side characters. We talked about them. I feel like they really made the movie. The slow, dark turn of this, like it crept up on you. You didn't really, like you made a really great point there. You didn't really notice it until it kind of happened.
Yeah.
It sort of hits you and you go, holy shit.
Which is kind of the point, I think.
Right. I agree.
Like they didn't either.
And I think like an evolution of that is like, this is just a really well put together movie.
Yeah.
It's not big. It's not flashy. It's got like big names in it, but they're not movie stars in it. Do you know what I mean? This is just an interesting reflection on this time in the world. What are your worst?
Austin Butler wasn't given much to do, but looked pretty.
That's what I'm on. That's what I'm on.
I'm kept waiting. And I think as I've talked about this with you, I've changed my tune here, but this is what I wrote down. I kept waiting for a clear Breaking Bad moment for this movie, and I'm not sure it ever comes. And I'm not sure how I feel about it. Like, would it be cooler if there was a crazy like moment where you're like, they've gone too far and or is it good that it's just like almost too far a bunch of different times?
You put it in worse, but it's not really worse.
Yeah, it's not really worse. It's just something I was thinking about. And then the female lead was a bit annoying at times.
All right, so you've said 2 of mine there. Jodie Comer's voice, she's a Scouse, so she's from Liverpool. She's from the UK. The accent doesn't nail it to start with, and I kind of get it. You've kind of made
a Midwest accent. It is. It's just very Midwest.
I feel like we've talked it out here. She's supposed to be like the annoying, controlling one, trying to change someone who can't change, but that still is quite annoying to me. Like I can't help it. The Austin Butler thing didn't have enough to do, and this film just doesn't have enough Mark Wahlberg in it.
Never
does.
Gonna call it out
there.
Never does. Especially, can you imagine him on a Harley, dude?
Can you Imagine Mark Wahlberg in
On a
this.
chopper.
All right, what do you think the current IMDb score is for this?
I saw it. It's 7-1.
It is 7-1. You're
Yeah.
right. What about Rotten Tomatoes percentage?
81.
It's 81.
Is
My
it?
man gets it. Ding,
Is
ding,
it?
ding,
I was
ding,
going to say
ding,
82. There we go.
Blind Squirrel gets a nut occasionally, my guy. Name your sex tape. And finally, Letterboxd, which is all user scores, and it's always 3.6, but it's never 3.6.
3.6.
It's 3.4.
Oh.
It's slightly below what people would say is average, I'd assume.
Okay.
And finally, what we do is we do our rating system, which is very simply as the internet so binary. We say, as I mentioned up top, is this better or worse than the most average movie we know, which is Aquaman 2018, and why? DL.
It is better. Largely because of the actors. And the story is well structured. It's just not blockbuster schlop.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's out in like the blockbuster like time as well. Interestingly about this movie, this was actually finished filming in 2022. Early trailers and stuff were released 2023, but it got put on the shelf for about a year. They couldn't find someone to distribute it. Isn't that interesting?
Really?
Well, so 20th Century Pictures.
So that means it was like literally it's 3 years old almost since when it was filmed.
Pretty much. 20th Century Pictures were bought by Disney, and they didn't really want to publish it, so they had to go around and find someone to distribute it. So
wow,
very interesting. I would also say better. Yeah, like it's good. I would definitely recommend this movie.
Yeah.
Spoiler time, big time spoiler time.
Yeah, why not? I mean, the biggest one I would say is Tom Hardy's character gets killed.
Yes, by the kid.
By a kid, like kind of just like super suddenly by a kid. Not really. I guess it's like
I think they do well at sort of building that character tension.
By a kid that he's like not let into the gang because like years ago when the kid came and asked, he's like, yeah, you can come in, but you got to leave all your friends. And then the kid's like, all right. And he's just like, what are you, some kind of fucking asshole?
Yeah.
You're just going to leave all your friends?
It's almost that trope of, you make your own worst enemy.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So, and I feel like the kid kind of represents the new upcoming version of the gang who is more violent and probably, angrier because of the times they grew up in and the type of parents they grew up with. And Tom Hardy wasn't willing to let him in at the time. Tom Hardy, Johnny, wasn't letting him come in at the time because he was that. Because he sort of represented that?
I think it's like less about that. And I think it's more about like the part that I found interesting is it's like you don't blame Tom Hardy for not letting him in. The kid was an asshole. He came with all his friends, totally was going to leave him, like cut his friends to dry. And that's like not the point of the gang. Like these guys are guys who ride together with their friends.
They die together.
Yeah.
Bad boys for life, baby.
100%.
Bad boys.
And
I completely agree. And you were talking a minute ago about this being sort of like a passing of a torch movie.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. And the trope that I think we were sort of trying to dance around, not spoil, is this.
Yeah.
It's it is a passing of the torch movie, but not in the way you expect. You think it's going to be Tom Hardy passing on to Austin Butler. The gang carries on. Austin Butler wants none of it. He's not interested. This kid is the one who takes it.
Yeah.
He takes the torch from Tom Hardy. And I find that really fascinating.
Yep.
Just that whole losing control of the gang. And there is definitely a very specific moment in this when they've, it's gone too far at this point. So what happens is the gang starts getting filled up with, people who've come back from wars.
Vietnam,
they're more interested in drugs.
Up. Yeah.
That almost rape scene
it's gnarly. Yeah.
That for me encapsulates the tension in this movie better than anything else.
Yeah.
It is so well executed, and I was on the
it had
edge of my seat.
Repercussions too, like
right
for the characters.
Changed the whole dynamic of the film. So for anyone who spoiler time, big time spoiler time, Jodie's character is married to Austin Butler. Austin Butler's left to take Cockroach, who's one of the side characters, to the hospital because he gets beaten up
by one of the other guys in the gang.
That's an interesting point because he decides he wants to leave. He's like, I'm out. But gang culture says you can't just leave a gang. The worst as well, he wants to go and be a cop.
Yeah.
And then some of the new gang members who are part of this, like, kick the shit out of him.
Yeah.
They beat. So, obviously, Benny then goes away to take him to the hospital, leaving Kathy on her own, and a bunch of these new riders effectively are going to rape her.
Yeah.
But Tom Hardy does step in the end, and she just gets away with it. But, like, it's that change of dynamic of the group. She was so comfortable with them.
Yeah, not anymore.
Time, and all of a sudden, everything's changed. And she's trying to get Benny to leave the group. And it's this, he doesn't want to leave. He's too scared to, change who he is at his core. I find that really interesting.
Yeah, I thought that that was like the pinnacle of like the tension. You're right. It's like after that, you're like, this is not going to end well.
100%.
The other thing that I think was worth discussing is the fact that they end the movie. So Tom Hardy and Tom Hardy's killed. Benny at this point has left them both for quite a long time.
He goes for a ride.
Yeah, he goes for a ride. We don't know where.
He goes to be a bike rider.
Yeah, he's just out in Indiana somewhere. But he comes back, and there's been comments about how he never cried, and he comes back after the death of Johnny, Tom Hardy's character, and cries like with his wife. He obviously hasn't seen her in a while either. And the ending is actually that they live happily ever after in Florida. Like, you know, like every married couple that retires.
It's an interesting ending because she's obviously doing the interview. She's in the house and she looks down and she sees Benny outside.
And you don't know that until the very end, that she's doing the interviews in their home, their marriage home.
There is an interesting bit about that final scene where Benny he's sat there having a cigarette with whoever he works in a garage with. He's a mechanic by the looks of it. And there is the noise of motorbikes in the background and he kind of smiles to himself. Now,
yes,
I like that because that could be looked at as very ambiguous.
Yes.
There are a few different ways. And in my head, while I was thinking about it afterwards, I was like, there is the look of, he looks away into the distance. He's happy. He can hear the thing he loves. He's like, I've done my bit of that. That's great. I'm out of that.
Uh-huh.
There's also the thought of he left a bike again.
Yeah. Are they
if they found him, he's dead.
Yeah.
So that could be a wistful look of, oh, they finally got me.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that could be like even that tiny moment.
I didn't think about that. That's a great point.
There's a lot going on.
But like
there.
the thing that made that feel weird to me was like they've built this guy, and maybe the statement is it was never about the bike. It was about the people, and the time,
definitely.
And so like because like the point being like him being like, oh, he never wanted to ride again, like whatever.
Well, there's
like I was kind of like, what? It's like surely he would want to ride again, even if he's not with you. Like he just likes riding bikes. That was his whole thing.
There's a third option there, which is he's looking away wistfully thinking, I could jump on a bike and go whenever I wanted.
Yeah, which is like, this is just what I want
which
right now.
Which would be in line with his character.
Yeah, this is just what I want right now. Yeah.
Right.
Fair enough.
100%. So like there is a lot in that final scene that encapsulates the movie nicely for me, actually. Like it's a good moment.
Fair.
There's one thing I wanted to touch on as well, just before we did move on. You mentioned the cockroach scene. Now, good to talk about this because this is what we were sort of getting to when we were talking a moment ago. Really close to spoilers, but the cockroach decides he wants to leave the gang. Just to reiterate what we were talking about before, he decides he wants to leave the gang, says like an idiot some of the new boys he wants to be a police officer. They beat him up, and what happens is gang rules. Tom Hardy has to go and kill him. That's how it works. He's the leader of the gang.
Apparently.
In this scenario, that's what seems to... I mean,
no, you're right. That's what's happening.
Out, is it?
But I guess like it's just, I would have liked it to be more clear.
You'd have liked to have heard the rules.
Well, I would have...
He could have read the rule book, actually.
I would have just liked somebody else to like make that comment around Tom Hardy so he feels like he's pressured to need to do something.
Yeah, at some point.
I don't know. Anyway.
I think Tom Hardy's perspective on this is these guys will kill him anyway. Because
I need to make it look like we did what we were supposed to do.
They also make him... He also says he wants to be a cop, so I assume that... This is what my assumption on that scene is. So Tom Hardy then goes with Benny. So Johnny and Benny go. Cockroach's house. God, this is hard to keep track of. And he's just sat in the dark. And it's really weird. He's moved all this shit out.
It's planned.
It's all planned. So Tom Hardy shoots him in the leg to show that there's blood there, makes it look like he's killed him and dumped the body.
Yep.
And Cockroach gets away and lives his life.
Yep.
I actually really like that.
I did. Now that you've said it, I didn't notice that the house was empty. So that makes a lot more sense.
Completely empty. Yeah. So it was. I think it was just sort of this perspective of Johnny was trying to give his mate a way out of a situation that he really can't get out of.
Yeah.
This is the only way that they can let him leave.
Yeah.
Without him getting killed by the gang. Right.
Yeah, because they've lost control. Yeah.
Right.
No, it makes sense.
That's the loss of control moment for me, where you realize
it's a good movie, man.
Yes,
it's a good movie.
I actually don't like the almost rape scene is horrific. It's awful to me.
Yeah.
I actually think the loss of control is the beating up of Cockroach. I think that's the moment. So when they got because none of them would fight their own people before.
And I think the Breaking Bad moment is when he burns the bar down.
Right. And I think I do too.
It is that, and because it's like it's not even a conscious thing. He notices. He's like, no, we don't. And it's like that hubris is when it starts. Like, oh, you think you can? You just
and the police and the fires. Yeah,
you just literally lit it on fire, and you think you can control the fire that creates. Like, there's almost like a motif there.
Absolutely.
And, I really liked that.
I completely agree. I think you're right. maybe we've changed our tune a little bit on
Yeah,
that.
maybe we have. Look what a good discussion can do, guys.
Right.
Just
Who
talk
wants
to
to
each
get-
other. You
Just
know?
have a conversation. Go buy a bike. Go and be a bike rider.
Did make me want to ride a motorcycle. I
It
never
made me
have.
want to buy one of those leather jackets.
I never have,
They look
dude.
so cool.
Yeah.
At all times, I
With
was
the
like,
little
these guys are
midriff?
cool. Yeah.
A little midriff. You know what? My abs are not there yet.
You got to be Austin Butler attracted to pull that
I
stuff
mean,
off.
the midriff is tough.
The cut off arms, nah. Don't even think about it unless you look like Austin
I
Butler.
think the cut off arms I could pull off. I don't think the midriff.
I think you could pull off the cut off
I think the cut off arms are doable. I got those glam muscles, but I got a little bit of fat on the tummy.
Ooh.
Can't be doing a
Maybe not the
midriff
midriff
with the
then.
fat.
We'll keep that. We'll keep that just for the. We'll keep that for the OnlyFans.
For the misses.
The Dre's OnlyFans.
Yeah.
DL. Shall we wrap up with some trivia true or false?
Of course we shall.
Let's do it. You're going to get it anyway. Trivia true, trivia false, DL. Tom Hardy always takes a prop home with him after each movie he is in. For this movie, he took home his Vagrant jacket. Is that true or is that false?
I think it's false. I don't think he always does, but I do think he took this jacket.
You're right for the wrong reason.
Oh,
It is actually
failed
false.
successfully.
He does take a prop home with him after every movie, and in this one, he took one of the motorbikes. Is
cool.
the rumor, which is, I mean, I would take that.
That's pretty cool.
We didn't even talk about the culture
I mean, he
of
probably you
creating
call,
your own bike and all
do you
that
think
stuff.
that he has to like pay for that,
Good question. Who knows?
or do you think that like the
Maybe the
studio's like
bike.
we just don't want to piss him off? We want him in another.
It's a
movie.
gift?
Yeah.
It's a gift.
Yeah. Write
I
it
reckon.
off.
I reckon. It'll be little things most of the time, though, I reckon. Like other ones, it would be like the Bane mask or something. You know what I mean?
How cool would that be?
That would be so
Look it up. What did he take from The Dark Knight Rises?
Look it up, Matt. You can just put a bit of. Interesting. So I'm looking, and there doesn't appear to be anything about him taking anything from the set of the Batman. So maybe IMDb's lying to us.
Oh wow.
Maybe we
Fact
just
checkers.
don't know. We need to ask him. What did you take?
The Bane-
What did you take from every
It's gotta be
movie?
the Bane
Tom
mask.
Tom
Or the
Hardy.
vest.
Yeah, thief.
But
All
he
right.
was so big you wouldn't fit into the vest.
Now we wouldn't. Absolutely not. If he stole the Mad Max jacket from Mad Max, I'd be totally cool with that as well.
Yeah, I mean,
Also, if you think about it, though, there'd be a ton of those bikes.
Naturally.
That would just be one of like 20.
yeah, but they're not cheap, dude.
Probably. Yeah, you're probably right.
Those things are like 50 grand, I think.
The old school ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
More than that, maybe.
Trivia true, trivia false, DL. The film was originally pitched to the studios by Jeff Nichols as an updated version of the book set in a futuristic cyberpunk setting. Is that true or is that false?
God, that sounds terrible. I hope that's false.
It's the one I made up for
Yeah,
this. I was like, what's wild and like? I couldn't think of anything niche about this story. I was like, what's wild and different? I was like, I could imagine them taking the core nucleus of this story and moving it to a different.
Yeah,
time
but to read this and be like, you know what we should do? Not this movie, but like actually
do
a
work
cyberpunk.
out.
You know, like that's just the audacity.
Totally fair.
Yeah.
Trivia true, trivia false. The biker gang that inspired this film actually still exists in 2024 and is a rival of the Hells Angels.
Sounds true.
It is true. I
Yeah.
find that fascinating.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously, it's based on a real biker gang, real book. So why not?
yeah.
Finally, trivia true, trivia false, DL. Michael Shannon and Austin Butler have both played Elvis Presley. True or is that false?
Michael Shannon and both played Elvis. You played Elvis Presley? No.
Actually, true.
Yeah.
Shannon played Elvis Presley in Elvis and Nixon from 2016, and Butler obviously played him in Elvis 2022. Ultimately,
I didn't think Shannon was attractive enough to play the king, to be honest with you.
I can't even think about it, to be honest with you. I can't even picture him. But ultimately, this film actually really went above and beyond my expectations for this. I didn't go in with a lot of expectations at all. And by the end of it, I was in.
Yeah, I just don't think Tom Hardy generally does bad movies.
No, I
Like,
completely
name
agree.
one that's been like dreadful or like.
This Is War with Chris Pine.
Oh, is that the rom-com?
Yeah.
Fair enough. But
That was
like,
back in the
that was a
very
while.
beginning.
That was like when he was
Yeah.
getting big.
I'm just being.
that was probably a
being
check.
facetious.
That was a check.
100%.
Yeah.
A lot of these
But also,
actors,
I would probably watch that.
I did
as
watch
far
it.
as, like,
it
movies-
wasn't terrible.
As far as movies like with your missus,
Yes.
movies with your missus, I would do that.
That could be a side hustle podcast
Yeah,
we're doing. We're going
for
to go
sure.
through all the Julia Roberts movies.
Yeah,
we're
well,
doing in a minute.
dude, I mean, that's movies for your man. For me, like, come on, dude.
This is movies. for
Don't
Man.
tease me, dude.
DL, do you want to wrap up the podcast, my man?
You know I do.
Where can they find us?
Disappear. They can find us at Podcast Assemble on Instagram or thepodcastassemble@gmail.com. We've also got a YouTube channel where Tommy does really cool things, and you should check that out. Otherwise,
Podcast Assemble, funnily enough. If you haven't guessed yet.
Yeah, that is the name. A big thank you to Matthew Bliss for editing and mastering this week's episode because he's back, baby. If you'd like Matt to be a part of your podcasting team, get in touch with him on business@mbpod.com or head to mbpod.com to find out more about his podcasting services. If you want to hear his work, listen to Coffee with a Podcaster. Very short, thoughtful pieces on topics podcasting.
Wholesome podcasting content.
I'm sure he complains about us often.
He probably does.
Yeah.
Probably not. I mean, yeah, probably does. Yeah,
Probably a lot of things. These assholes
tangents.
editing my thing. Go check it out. Yeah.
While you're there listening to this podcast, you should give them a 5-star review. You should also give us a 5-star review because you can do it right there in the podcast capture, which you are looking at this podcast.
Check it out.
Check it out.
Do it well.
That'd be great. We apprate you.
Yeah.
Helps us get new listeners. Also, pass the pod.
Yes.
If you know anyone who
There's a
likes this
button.
stuff,
Give it
share.
Like the square with the arrow. Why is it a square?
I don't know. It's a really good question.
Yeah.
Give a friend the gift of Podcast Assemble. DL, thanks for sticking with it, my man.
Yeah. Until next time.
Tally ho.
Tally-ho.